So let's talk about it. What's really holding you back from switching into tech? Do you think you're too old? Do you believe that maybe you're not smart enough? Are you worried that maybe you're not good at math? Because that's a very common one that I've heard a lot over the years. Or maybe you think that you don't have enough time or the right educational background or what it takes to compete with people who have been coding since they were teenagers. Or maybe you're telling yourself that now is not the right time, because of all the layoffs happening in the technology industry. Well, some of these concerns are legitimate. Changing careers is difficult. Learning something new takes time. The job market can be unpredictable. But sometimes the reasons we give ourselves are not real reasons. Sometimes they are just stories we tell ourselves because we're afraid. Afraid of failing, afraid of being rejected, or just simply afraid of starting all over. And sometimes afraid of discovering that we might actually be capable of much more than we can imagine. Today, I want to tell you a little bit about the moment I was forced to confront some of those fears for myself and how it changed the direction of my life. Many years ago, my wife, who was then my girlfriend, came to me and told me that she had missed her period. That conversation, it really jolted me into action. You see, at the time, I was working as a teacher, and what I earned was enough for me as a single person. I helped my girlfriend from time to time with some of her expenses, but I didn't have any major financial commitments. I could survive on my salary. But the possibility of bringing another human being into the world really changed my perspective. You see, if I had a child who depended on me, my teaching salary was simply not going to be enough. It was no longer just about, what I wanted for myself. I had to start thinking about what kind of life could I provide for this child. So before that moment, I had my Microsoft certification in my pocket, but I didn't feel any pressure to actually go out and look for a job. So I had a certification. I had studied the material. I understood it enough to actually go write a certification exam and pass it. So I had my certification in my pocket, but I wasn't looking for any jobs. And maybe I thought I needed more certifications. I thought maybe I needed to learn more. I needed to study more. Maybe I didn't even believe that someone like me could actually get hired in the tech industry. Whatever the reason was, I had found a comfortable place where I could tell myself that I was preparing for a technology career without ever taking the risk of actually pursuing one. That conversation with my then girlfriend actually changed that. You see, the prospect of having a child forced me to evaluate my situation. It forced me to ask myself a difficult question. What am I going to do differently? So I was actually forced to write up my CV and actually go out and walk through the streets of Douala in search of a job in technology. I didn't even know the city of Douala very well. Back then I was living in Limbe. And Douala can be very scary for someone coming from a small town like Limbe. I didn't know the city very well. I didn't have any careful job search strategy. I simply knew that I had to start moving. But I did not just walk into offices and drop my CV and walk away. No, my situation was more precarious than that. I needed fast results. I'll go into a reception and I'll ask to speak to someone from human resources. I remember going into Deloitte and asking the front desk that I wanted to talk to their HR person. And the front desk person actually walked me to the HR department and introduced me to their head of HR. And I sat down in front of the head of HR. And as I was handing them my CV, I started giving them my speech, right? What I could do for them, what I'd learned and what I could do for them. Basically, the value that I could provide for their company. And to my surprise, the HR person actually listened to me. We discussed my background, my Microsoft certification, and the kind of work that I was hoping to find. And after listening to me, the person suggested that I speak to someone from their tech department. And that conversation was really important to me. You see, ultimately, I didn't get the job, but that was the moment that I realized that getting a job in technology might actually be possible. I kept in contact with a tech person in their office, and he and I actually got to be friends. That was not really what was, the important thing that I got out of the conversation. It was the fact that they were able to listen to me and actually give me some consideration. So someone had looked at my background and decided that it was at least worth connecting me with an IT professional. Until then, a technology career had felt distant, almost like something reserved for a different kind of person. But after that conversation, I started to feel like it was real. I visited other banks along the main commercial streets in Douala. I'd walk into the bank and ask to talk to their HR person. And once I met the HR person, I started asking them, what opportunities they had in technology. And I started telling them about how I could meet some of those technology needs that they were facing at the time. At the end of the day, I did not get a job from any of those places that I visited, not from Deloitte, not from any of the banks, but I had some very interesting conversations. And every conversation made the technology industry feel a little bit less mysterious. I started learning how companies thought about technology roles. I became more confident talking about my skills. I started to understand how to present myself. But most importantly, I started discovering that the fear in my head was much bigger than the actual experience of walking into those offices. One of the biggest lessons I learned from those visits was that we are often the first people to sell ourselves short. Before anyone rejects us, we have rejected ourselves. Before a company tells us we are not qualified, we have decided that we are not qualified. Before we try to learn a new skill, we ourselves, we already start to think that we are too old, we are unable to learn, maybe we are not smart enough, maybe we don't have the right background, we don't have what it takes to learn that skill. But that's actually fear speaking. Fear does that to us. There is the fear of the unknown, there is the fear of rejection, there is a fear of looking foolish or looking stupid. There is a fear of putting yourselves through many months or years of work without knowing exactly how things will turn out. If you have ever read this book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich, when you decide on what you want and you're prepared to pay the price required to achieve it, you begin to create a path for it. The universe steps aside and make way for someone like that, someone who knows what they want and they are willing to work for it. They are willing to put in the work to go get it. That does not mean that the universe magically hands you everything that you request. You still need to do some work. You still have to study. You still have to apply to positions. You still have to hear no. And you still have to get up and try again. But nothing changes until you make a decision and you begin moving. What story are you telling yourself? What reason do you repeatedly give for not starting? Maybe you say you are too old. I started learning to code when I was 40. I was not the youngest person in the room. I wasn't even the oldest person in the room. But being older meant that I brought years of professional and life experience with me. I understood responsibility. I understood how to communicate with people. I understood how to walk through difficult situations. And I knew how to learn from failure. When you switch careers later in life, you're not starting from nothing. You're bringing everything you have already learned into a new field. Your previous experiences may not be technical, but they are not worthless. Maybe the excuse you're giving yourself is that you're not smart enough. Technology can look intimidating from the outside. You see people using unfamiliar terminology, you hear words like algorithms, cloud architecture, APIs, databases, artificial intelligence, distributed systems. It can feel like everyone else understands something that you do not. But no one starts out by understanding it all. Every experienced engineer was once afraid of their first line of code. And every cloud architect had to learn what a server is at some point in their career. And every person that you actually admire in tech, every software engineer, it doesn't matter if they're a director, every person in tech has searched online at some point for an answer to something they did not understand. You do not have to know everything before you start. You simply need to be willing to learn one thing, try another thing, fail, try again. And one of the most common excuses that I hear people give when you tell them about a career in tech is that I am not good at math. That, I think, if I got a penny for every time I heard that from somebody, I'd probably be a thousandaire now. Maybe not a millionaire, but a thousandaire. The truth is that not every technology career requires advanced mathematics. Some specialized fields do. There are fields like machine learning, data science, cryptography, computer graphics, and certain engineering roles. Those might require like a strong foundation in maths. But there are many technology roles where advanced math is not part of your daily work. Software development, for one, often requires logic, problem solving, patience, the ability to break a large problem into smaller pieces and then tackle them one by one. Cybersecurity, cloud computing, technical support, product management, user experience design, quality assurance, business analysis. So there are so many other technology careers that require different combinations of skill. So you cannot reject an entire industry just because you are struggling with one subject in school. This same excuse about not being good at math, that was something like my wife used to tell me, all the time. She was not good at math, especially when she was thinking about going into nursing school. But I continued encouraging her. I told her that I would help her anytime she had maths problem. And she finally completed her nursing school and she is today a nurse. Now she's even considering to go further her nursing degree. She wants to go into an advanced nursing role, nursing career. And so she's thinking of going back to school. And usually when she brings up that conversation, I ask her, but honey, I thought you were not good at math. And then she would just laugh at me, right? So we kind of established that the excuse that she was not good at math was just an excuse for her not to follow what was her passion. She did not automatically become a mathematician when she went into nursing. She learned the math that she needed for her program and her profession, and that was it. She didn't have to learn more than that. And that is what most of us, have to do. You do not need to master every possible skill. You need to learn what is necessary for the path that you chose. And then that has to be it. You don't have to go around learning more than you require for your job. Another concern that I hear frequently, especially in recent times, is that there are too many layoffs in technology. And that concern is also understandable. The layoffs are real. The technology market is competitive, and switching careers does not guarantee that you would immediately find a high paying job. But employment uncertainty is not unique to technology. Recently, I was browsing some posts from people discussing layoffs on Glassdoor. I noticed that many of them were not even technology workers. There were people who worked in administration, in healthcare, in hospitality, food service, finance, so many other industries, right? People can lose jobs in almost any profession. Avoiding technology does not protect you from economic uncertainty. Because you went into a different field does not mean that you're automatically going to have job safety. The better question is not which industry would I go into that will guarantee that I'll always have a job. Here is the bad news for you. There is no industry that can make you that promise. The better question is, what skills are valuable? What skills are transferable? Which career will give me opportunities to continue growing? Which kind of work am I willing to put serious effort into learning? Technology is not risk-free, but there is no profession that is. Right? Every profession has some risk. But staying in a position where you're unhappy, you're underpaid, or you're unable to support the life you want also carries its own risks. And doing nothing and staying in that kind of role is actually making a decision too. I'm not telling you to resign from your job today or tomorrow. And I'm not telling you that switching into technology will be easy. I'm asking you to stop rejecting yourself because you have not even started. Take one step. Research one technology career. Complete an introductory course. Build one project. Speak with one person who already works in the field. Then update your CV and apply to one opportunity. You do not need to see the entire road before you take the first step. When I walked into Deloitte and in those banks in Douala, I did not know where the journey would eventually take me. I did not walk out with a job even. But I walked out with something else. I walked out believing that a technology career was possible. And sometimes that belief is the beginning of everything. So I want you to ask yourself, what is really holding me back? Is it my age? Is it the fear of rejection? Is it concern about money? Is it the belief that I'm not smart enough? Is it the job market? Or have I simply become comfortable receiving the same explanation why I cannot move forward? And be honest with yourself. Then decide one action that you will take within the next 24 hours. Not next month, not next week, tomorrow. Not when you finally feel like you're completely ready. Within the next 24 hours. Write down the career you're interested in. Register for a course. Contact somebody. Contact a person. Start a project. Update your CV. Submit an application. Your first step does not have to be dramatic. It simply has to move you one step forward. Let me know in the comment section, what is it exactly that has been holding you back? And what is it that you're committing to doing in the next 24 hours? Thank you for staying with me up to the end of this video. If you're new on this channel, here we talk about changing careers, breaking into technology, building a better future, even when you're coming from a non-traditional background. Your story is not finished. You may be far more capable than you have allowed yourself to believe. Consider subscribing to this channel, turn on that notification bell so that every time we upload a new video, you can take part in the conversation. Thank you, and see you in the next one.